Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Guys Who Stare at Stats. We've got a lot again to talk about today, a lot of predictions today. We've got World Series talk, NFL talk, and college football talk. So, as always, be sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and leave a comment down below. We sincerely appreciate it. Helps us all out. But, as always, the question of the day, as I turn it over to both of you, Andrew and Connor, who are here today with us. Very important question. How's your day going?
It's going pretty good. I thought today went by pretty quick, to be honest. I feel like all of a sudden I look down at the clock and it's 4:30, 5 o'clock, and you know what? It's a day closer to Friday, and that's the day I just can't wait for, as we'll get into here in a little bit.
Gee, I wonder why you're so excited about Friday.
It's another day to Friday. I'm just counting down to Friday. That's all I care about. That's all I care about right now. Just get me to Friday.
Yeah, pretty much my day went by quick. Really can't say much about it.
Yeah, it has been a day for me, to be sure. You know, I love going to the doctor, and even though I'm sick, the first thing I go to the doctor, oh, by the way, have you done your blood work recently? We need you to do that tomorrow. I was just like, oh, okay, thank you guys. Can I get treated for my, what I'm actually here for?
That's why I always try to avoid the doctor, right? Because every time you go, there's something else that pops up.
You go and do one thing, and then it's a whole nother situation. But we do have a better situation to talk about. We got college football. We got a lot of games. We're going to do this kind of the same order we did last time. College football, NFL, then end with baseball. Starting with the first game to get into in college football, the number one team in the country, Georgia, taking on rival Florida. Used to be called the world's largest outdoor cocktail party. Now it's, I don't even know what they call it anymore, but it should still be called the Cocktail Party. It's a great name.
It's a great name.
Always played in Jacksonville. Georgia, 22.5-point favorites in this one.
Yep, even though Florida's, obviously they're coming off a loss against LSU, but that really won't mean much. I mean, there's a reason why Georgia's favored by 22.5. Georgia will easily cover that.
I think Georgia wins the game pretty easy. I don't know if they'll cover. I don't know. I feel like Florida coming off a loss is going to try to get things right. I do think it's going to be multiple possessions. 22 points is always a lot for me, but no, Georgia wins fairly easy. But I'll lean towards the cover with you there, Connor.
Okay.
This is one of those, you get a neutral site game, you get a big rivalry game. Crazy things happen all the time, anytime you get these types of games. But that all being said, Georgia's just too much for Florida this year. You're still in year one with Billy Napier if you're the Gators, trying to get things built up and going. This could be a fun game in a few years again, but right now I think Georgia just absolutely demolishes them. The next one we have, though, everyone's favorite time slot, big noon. Ohio State, Penn State, top 15 game in Happy Valley. Usually these are the types of games Penn State likes to get for a whiteout. Obviously the whiteout last week. And how about the Nittany Lions? 15.5-point home dogs in this one.
Yeah, I'm going Penn State here. I think they pull off the upset this weekend. I think the 11 a.m., 12 for them, noon.
The morning / early afternoon.
I think that benefits Penn State, to be honest. I think in this kind of game, the home crowd obviously will be into it. Penn State will be ready. I think Ohio State comes out a little sluggish there with the noon start. I think Penn State takes advantage of it early, and then it's going to be a battle throughout the game. I think Ohio State, Penn State obviously lives mostly on their defense. I think they're going to obviously have to find a way to contain them a little bit. I think Penn State walks out of this game with a very close win. I'll say 27-23.
Yeah, I think in our early pre-predictions, I know I got some flack for it, but I thought Penn State would be the trap game for Ohio State to get their first loss of the season, and then Ohio State would go on from there to the big rivalry game with Michigan, going 11-1 or undefeated, depending on how the outcome would go. But obviously Penn State, they had almost 2 weeks ago, had a bad loss in Ann Arbor, but they rebounded and beat up Minnesota, who's not a really bad of a team, but obviously Penn State's showing they're much better team, and obviously being in Happy Valley is, like you said, Andrew, being just there is a huge advantage, and obviously for them being 12 o'clock for them, much more early game for them, they're more ready for it. I think for this one, I'm going to go by with the trap game that I had, that I prediction earlier in the year, and I'm going to have agree with you. Penn State takes it in a close one.
To me, this is a trap game. I will say that. I never thought in my life I would say Penn State is a trap game for somebody at home. But to me, Ohio State's playing like the number one team in the country right now. Even though they're not ranked that way, they have the offense, they have the defense, they have everything going their way. That being said, they'll struggle early on in this game. They struggled early on against Iowa too. They struggled early on at Michigan State. It's something they do. It's how they adjust in that second quarter that will determine this game. I think Ohio State makes the right adjustments. That defense is going to tighten up. C.J. Stroud's going to have another great game. And I think Ohio State finds a way to cover here. I think Penn State will fall apart down the stretch. Sean Clifford will make a key mistake or two, and this will be an eerily similar game that we saw against Michigan. A good first half, but Ohio State takes over in the second half.
You're underestimating Happy Value up there.
I've seen Ohio State come into this game before where I didn't think they were the better team and still find ways to win. Let's just say that.
Sounds like a rivalry.
It is. To me, I would say it's a rivalry. I don't know about Ohio State.
It is. It's not as big for Ohio State. It's almost in a way kind of like OSU, OU. I mean, obviously OU's got Texas as well. Some OU fans will view Texas as the bigger one. I'm just hearsay. I had some cousins go to Ohio State, and then my brother went to Penn State. But Ohio State, what it sounds like is their bigger rival to them is Michigan, but Penn State's biggest rival is Ohio State. So to me, it kind of reminds me of the OU, OSU, Texas.
My favorite thing is Penn State. Every time they put out a graph that was like, we're unrivaled. It was like Ohio State and Pitt are right there. What are you talking about, unrivaled?
They don't see, because since they never play Pitt, so they're never going to look at Pitt as a rival.
They scared. Scared of Narduzzi for some freaking reason.
I mean, I am kind of surprised they don't try to make that like into a big out-of-conference rivalry. Whether you start the year with it or maybe make it like the week 2 or week 3 game, it is one you think they'd take advantage of.
Didn't they used to be rivals, or have they never been rivals with Pitt?
I'm not quite sure. I'm not. My brother went there, but I've never been like a diehard Penn State fan. I mean, I've obviously followed them, but like I've never been like.
I think they call it like the Keystone Classic or Keystone Rivalry or something like that.
But if you don't play each other that much,
I know they have a name for it, but at the same time, it's one of those that I don't know. Penn State, every once in a while, they'll pull something like, we're truly this. It's like you have rivals. Okay, everyone has rivals.
They did have a rivalry with Pitt, but it's kind of dormant right now.
Yeah, so I know they played a few years ago. I know they did a home and home.
Yeah, the Keystone Classic. They resumed in 2016, but they ended it in 2019.
Yeah,
long-lived. 3 years.
Well, there's no future plans with their schedule.
Yeah, that was a whole pandemic ago. That
I
was
wonder who stopped. Right? I wonder who stopped that. Do you guys know how three-way tiebreakers work? I'm just trying to think. Like, if Penn State does pull this off, and then you say Michigan or say Ohio State beats Michigan, how does that work?
They'll probably go with the highest ranked team.
They probably would go with the highest ranked team, is what I would think. I don't know what it would exactly come down to.
That'd be wild.
Because if they have all the same conference record, they're going to have the same division record, of course, and that's going to lead on and on. I think it would be highest ranked team.
Can we throw out the other division winner and just have?
Didn't Baylor have to they kicked a field goal so they could have a point difference?
That was like 9th on the tiebreaker list, and I still think Aranda just wanted to get a cheap shot in. Don't blame him though. I would do the same thing. But it was like someone went through it and looked at the rules, and that was like 8th or 9th on the list of tiebreakers. I don't know if the Big Tens are different from the Big 12s, but I would think it would be highest ranked team, which if you're Penn State would be a good thing, because then you'd have to let Michigan and Ohio State battle each other out, and you'd have a chance to ride that surge there and, win out.
But wouldn't that be a bad thing for Penn State, though?
It would eventually.
There's no way Penn State's getting higher than
you would have to root for Illinois to beat Michigan or something crazy to happen, but I really don't know what it would be. But while you two both look that up there, I'm going to move on to the next game here, which features two completely different teams. We're out of Big Ten territory for the moment. Tennessee taking on Kentucky, the beer barrel game. Vols are a 12.5-point favorite in this one. They're going to be unveiling some new uniforms for this one, going with the Halloweenish look of orange and black. So
they look awesome if you haven't seen them yet.
Yeah, they are pretty. Nayland will be rocking for this one, but Georgia lurks around the corner for Tennessee and Kentucky. You're just trying to find a way to get back in that SEC East title race.
Yeah, I think Kentucky opens up a 10-0 lead, catches Tennessee kind of kind of slow here coming out, and then Tennessee takes over from there, and they'll cover the 12.5. I don't know why. I got a feeling. I don't know. I feel a slow start for Tennessee this weekend.
Yeah, I could probably see a slow start also, but I'm gonna Tennessee probably. I think just jumps out in the game, doesn't look back, and beats them by about 20. I'll say 24, just to be fair. For all I know, it could happen what they did to LSU, beat them up really badly.
I think if Tennessee was going to have a slow start, it was going to be last week. We saw that a little bit. Everyone looked at the score and went, it's 7-7. Wouldn't that be funny if it was close? Oh, okay, Tennessee took over now. They had their Bama game hangover. They had the perfect time to have it. But I think they wake up for this one. They get ready. Yes, it's a night game, so Nayland will be rocking as always. Tennessee, I think they're going to come out, but they're going to get a scare. Kentucky's a good team. I think everyone's forgotten about them. Mark Stoops is able to get blood from a stone every year with that program. Will Levis is still good. Chris Rodriguez is still good. This is going to be a fun game. It's going to be closer than people think, but I still think Tennessee finds a way to get the job done. The next one here, it's the night game on ABC. Saturday Night Football. It goes to Ann Arbor. Michigan's streak is over. They finally don't have an 11 a.m. game, and they get Michigan State coming to town. Always a big rivalry between these two. Michigan State, they're trying to get that disrespect going. Mel Tucker talking to his team about how, in 1953, Michigan voted against Michigan State joining the Big Ten, finding any way he can to build this up even more than it currently is. But these two, it's always a weird game when Michigan and Michigan State get together. Michigan State winning the last two, even though they weren't really the better team in either of those games, but they always find a way to play up to Michigan.
This Michigan State has had Harbaugh's number for most of his tenure. As much as even though it's haha funny kind of stuff, especially if you don't like Michigan, Michigan State's just not really good at all this year. They've played really poorly. They might have a competitive first quarter and a half, and then the teams they've lost to have just blown them out for the most part. I don't expect that to be any different. I think McCarthy and company just get it done in Ann Arbor. They don't have one of those weird close games that lead to disaster.
No, I agree with you. I think Michigan takes care of business here. I think this is a different Michigan State team we haven't seen much from so far this year. I think Michigan, top to bottom, starts this game fairly well. Their defense is just too good, and they'll get the run game going early too.
Yeah, I would say this is going to be one of those. Blake Corum's going to have a field day for the Wolverines. J.J. McCarthy's going to do whatever he wants to that Michigan State secondary. If you haven't seen it, it's pretty bad. It's not a good secondary. I believe at one point Michigan State was dead last in the FBS in terms of passing yards or something like that. It was not a good defense at all. And Michigan State, they still haven't recovered. Yes, they beat Wisconsin in double overtime. Wisconsin's not that good this year. I don't hold that as high as I usually would. Wolverines will cruise and take out a lot of frustration on Michigan State this year. But the next one we have, I teased a little bit last week, or last episode, last week, a whole one day ago.
Awesome.
But TCU goes to West Virginia. This is a game that on paper looks pretty simple. West Virginia's been struggling. TCU's the number 7 team in the country. But do not let this fool you. Neil Brown has never lost to TCU. He's 3-0 against the Horned Frogs as the coach of the Mountaineers. TCU is 2-3 in Morgantown. They have not won in Morgantown since that 2014 team, losing in 16, losing in 18, and losing in 2020. So there are some weird things that happen up here when TCU and West Virginia get together. Frogs are only a 7.5-point favorite in this game, and look at that over-under at 69. A lot of points expected here when you have two good offenses going up against each other. Well, West Virginia is at times a good offense. Let me rephrase that. Some weeks they'll drop 40, some weeks they'll drop 10.
Yeah, I think for this one, TCU will probably have a similar game where they had the last 2 weeks where they might have to come from behind because the last 2 games, the offenses have been pretty slow. But difference is OSU and K-State's defenses were better than what West Virginia has, so it might not necessarily be the same kind of come from behind where you had to rely on a lot of mistakes on Oklahoma State, on offensively just doing really nothing with it. Then K-State going down with injuries, Martinez going out, Howard having to go out for a bit, and then eventually coming back, but not really doing much with it. But I think this one TCU will have a much more easier time-ish, but I still think TCU's defense is suspect at times. Bit suspect, and JT Daniels and company on that offense will do something with it. But I think TCU still wins this game. They probably win by like 13.
I think TCU wins double digits. I don't think they have much of a problem with West Virginia. That defense is really bad. I think TCU jumps out big early and they don't look back. Maybe they kind of let West Virginia back into the game a little bit, as we talked about some of the games from last week. But no, I don't think they have much of a problem. I think they have full control from the start.
I think Quinn Johnston is going to have a big day. He might have a 3-touchdown day with how bad West Virginia's defense is at times. TCU, I think, will roll here. They'll be just fine. I don't think that Morgantown curse gets them this year. They find a way to get out of it. And we have to talk about an 8-0 TCU next week. Man, what a time to be alive for the Frogs. They're having a good time over there in Fort Worth.
They got to be conference favorites at this point.
Yeah, I would think
right
so.
Now, I would have them as the favorite.
And the next one here, Oregon, also coming off a big win. They go to Cal this week. Do not let this Cal team fool you. They're not good, but they're competitive. No. And that's something that is weird to see. They have a lot of one-score losses to Notre Dame, Washington, Colorado. Some teams obviously better than others on that list. But can Oregon come in there and cover that 17-point spread is the bigger question, because I think we're all going to agree Oregon wins this game.
Yeah, and I think they can easily cover that spread. With the way they've been playing against even tougher teams, they've been able to blow teams out pretty good.
I think Cal's offense is going to struggle from the start here. I think Oregon, we talked about it yesterday, going through the Oregon game from last week. Nix and company are starting to figure things out. Yeah, it took them a little bit, but they're full force now. They're forced to be reckoned with. It seems like they figured everything out. I think Oregon takes control from the start, and I think they cover that 17.
I think they do as well. As much fun as it would be to see Jake Plummer to go off and throw for 5 or 6 touchdowns, Cal has their best game of the year and knocks Oregon out to throw the Pac-12 into further disarray. I don't think that's going to happen. Oregon's going to find a way to easily win this thing.
That'd be funny.
It would be funny. I would laugh very hard if that happened. But unfortunately, I don't see it. I think Oregon gets the win here and continues to represent the Pac-12 as they have that playoff chase they're going on themselves. The next one we have, Oklahoma State takes a trip to Kansas State, the Little Apple, and K-State 1.5-point favorites in this one. This has been kind of one of the more pick'em games I've seen this week. Oklahoma State, of course, coming off the big comeback win over Texas. Kansas State coming off quite possibly one of the worst games you could have, not in terms of results. A 10-point loss isn't really that bad, but what happened to your quarterbacks? Adrian Martinez getting injured, Will Howard getting injured for some portion of the game. No one knows Adrian Martinez's status right now. He will probably be a game-time decision, I would at least think. So does that change your mind on this game of whether Martinez or Will Howard starts, or do you think one team will win either way?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's very tough. It's tough to pick this game. And obviously, I went to Oklahoma State, but I have a feeling Kansas State wins this game if they're healthy. I think this is one they'll it's going to be a battle back and forth. Obviously, I think this one, it's a true pick 'em. I think it could go either way. I'm going to have to lean Oklahoma State, though, just because of you don't know who the quarterback is. I think it does make a huge difference for this game. And, I want to lean towards Kansas State, but, again, not knowing the quarterback situation of Martinez and even Howard. I get it. He's expected to play, but as you mentioned, Cade, he got hurt last week, so he's obviously probably not going to be 100%. So who's to say one play maybe doesn't change his dynamic. So I'm going to lean Oklahoma State due to the Kansas State injury bug.
Yeah, I'm going to probably lean that way also. It wasn't just the quarterback situation they had to deal with. He had other guys that got hurt, but not as severe. That would be much of a blow like Martinez going down. Will Howard the way things are going, I think I probably would be ready for him to start, especially since Martinez literally just went out and never came back at all for the whole game. So it's like, I don't know what the whole thing with that was, but And the thing is, OSU obviously against Texas played with a lot more underclassmen. It's like some of their receivers never played a game at all, and all of a sudden some of them made pretty big plays for them. So, and obviously, no idea how Jason Taylor II is going to be with his injury status. Do we know anything about that?
I haven't seen it. I think it's a game time decision.
Probably. But I think with both, I don't expect K-State to be completely at full strength. I'm going to pick Oklahoma State to win this one.
The thing that worries me here is Spencer Sanders. You can't trust him. Kansas State's defense is very good so far this year. I'm afraid Sanders has a couple turnovers that could cost OSU the game. I know we've all seen that happen before, so I know it doesn't sound much of a surprise. But I think OSU, to win this game, needs to rely on the run game pretty heavy here.
I would say the same thing for Kansas State. That's your bread and butter. They've also got to rely on the run game. You got a little guy named Deuce Vaughn who's good at causing problems. He gets about 19 to 20 carries a game. I would expect Kansas State to run him a little bit more similar to what Texas did, probably more than what Texas did, and that's a bit scary if you're giving Deuce Vaughn, 25, 30 carries a game. That could be problems for Oklahoma State, but we'll have to find out. I think Oklahoma State finds a way to win this game. I think Kansas State's too beat up right now. Even if Martinez does come back and play, I still think Oklahoma State will find a way to win. If they're going to make Martinez throw the ball, that's usually your key to victory there. I think Oklahoma State will have to find a way to do that. I think they will. We're starting to see the Oklahoma State of last year come out a little bit, not in terms of 100% locking a team down, but they're making all the right adjustments to get there again.
Especially second half adjustments. Again, that Texas game was really big. And that seems like OSU usually does a better job about.
Yeah. But the next one here, Southern Cal going out to the desert to take on Arizona. Pac-12 network game, 6 o'clock kick, 4 o'clock out on the West Coast. USC 15.5-point favorites in this one. How well do the Trojans bounce back from their loss to Utah? They had a bye week to think about it. Can they come back and get a blowout win here? Or do they suffer a weird fate and lose 2 games in a row in another case of Pac-12 after dark?
Yeah, I don't necessarily. It might be a weird Pac-12 after dark game for about maybe a quarter, and then USC pretty much takes over and I think covers that spread.
Yeah, I think USC takes control of this game early. I think they're coming off a bye. I think they had a week to fix everything. I mean, it wasn't even like you lose to a bad team, have a shocking loss. You lost at Utah in a very close game. So, again, it wasn't like it was too bad of a loss in that way. I think you work things out through the bye week. You get a week of rest, get healthy, and now you go on the road to Arizona. And I mean, I think top to bottom, USC is just a much, much better team. And I think they show it from the start.
I think so as well. They'll find a way to get back. Caleb Williams will have a bounce-back game. The only thing that I think is a little weird to see with the Trojans is how do they respond without Jordan Addison? If he is fully healthy for this game, how healthy he is. Might play a little bit of a difference early on, but the Trojans are just much more talented. Next one here, similar story, UCLA taking on Stanford, a rivalry game between the two California schools. Stanford, they are coming off back-to-back wins. Somehow they've won against Notre Dame and Arizona State by almost similar scores, but that is not going to give them any favors with Vegas still. UCLA's mad coming off that 15-point loss to Oregon. Bruins 16.5-point favorites in this one.
Yeah, I think it's going to be very similar to what I said about USC, except where UCLA just pretty much takes over early and does what they want with Stanford.
Yeah, I mean, you have UCLA here coming off the loss, but I don't think they show any signs. Their offense is too good. Stanford's been relying on their defense the last couple of weeks, 28 points combined through those 2 weeks, but against some pretty bad offenses. I mean, Notre Dame's missing their quarterback for the season. Arizona State had to fire their coach mid-season, so both teams going through problems themselves. So Stanford was able to take advantage of that, but I don't think their defense is able to hold up against this UCLA offense. I think the Bruins win this and cover.
I think so as well. UCLA's just too talented of a team. I want to see how close Stanford can make it, just because if they can show some sign of life, that would obviously be getting back in the right direction for them. You've had 2 close wins. Can you somehow play a good game against a top 15 opponent? Next one here, Ole Miss and Texas A&M. This is a battle This is a battle of two different teams going through two completely different things. Ole Miss, they were a favorite maybe to stay in there, be a number 2 in the SEC West. That obviously has gone out the window after last week. Texas A&M is entering a whole nother level that they never thought possible. They're 3-4. You got players getting suspended. A lot of crazy things are coming out. Apparently, with players smoking weed before the game against South Carolina. Oh my goodness. It's a 30-24 loss. Of course, Texas A&M had there. People are starting to call for maybe the firing of Jimbo Fisher. What are you going to do there? There was a funny article about Revel getting suspended, which I thought was hilarious. Of course, it was a joke, but the article that came out earlier today, or the thing I saw on ESPN, is like, why Texas A&M is bad vibes central. And, man, that is kind of where we're going with Texas A&M at this point, because they are 2-point underdogs at home, and if they lose, it's their 4th straight loss, and this A&M team becomes dangerously close to not making a bowl game.
Yeah, Jimbo, it just seems like he's losing all kinds of control with his team. Yeah, players just kind of just doing whatever and not really respecting any form of team rules, especially the whole smoking and the weed thing right before the game. Good Lord. It's like, dude, why would you bring that with you?
They got party.
But
who cares about
the
you
ready for the game?
Yeah.
But obviously, Ole Miss coming off a really devastating loss to LSU, who just whacked them. And A&M obviously losing to South Carolina. Good Lord. Never thought I would see that, but then again, this is A&M not having an offense. So that's really been their whole thing, and I still think that comes back to bite them, and Ole Miss, I think, gets by with about a 10-point victory.
I'm going crazy here. I think Texas A&M goes home. I think they fix some things. Ole Miss struggled last week. It's tough to go 2 straight here on the road. Was it?
And Mike and Perkins saying he was Jameis Winston's coach at Florida State. Yeah, that bought him $95 million at Texas A&M. The QB whisperer that can't whisper to a quarterback. You just luck out in a 1 QB.
Sorry about that. Go ahead.
But anyway, your point, Andrew.
No, I think again, Ole Miss coming off a tough loss, 2 straight on the road makes it tough. You don't even get the home crowd back in your favor. Doesn't get any easier. I get A&M some struggling, but I mean, I think we'd all say A&M and LSU on paper. You probably lean A&M on paper. So Ole Miss again going into a tough environment down there in Texas. But hey, I'll tell you what, both defenses are really good though. I think it's gonna be a little more low scoring than people and the Lions say. I think 55 is a little high for this kind of game. I think A&M's able to contain that Ole Miss offense throughout the game and still win at home. I'll say they win. I'll go 24-21.
So I think it's going to be that kind of game. It's going to be a lower scoring game. A&M, they're not going to change their offense up too much, but they're going to find a way to grit this thing out for 3 quarters. But I think in that 4th quarter, Ole Miss finds a way to get the win. It'll be a close game, and I mean it's going to be, I think, a heartbreaker for Texas A&M again. You're going to have a shot. You're going to say we're right there. We're that close to being still competitive, but they just can't put it together. And now you've got even more of a quarterback battle. No one knows what's going on. Are you going with Haynes King? Are you going back with Weigman? No one knows what to do here at College Station. And I think that panic button gets dangerously close to being pressed at some point this season.
Especially you're in Jimbo's 5th season with A&M. The fact that he hasn't it's like I know they had the one season where they were ranked 5th in the country, but that's a far cry from what
that was a COVID year.
That was a COVID year, and it really doesn't matter because it's like we should have been in the playoff. Like you would have been smacked by Alabama again, so no one wants to see that. But it's like you think under Jimbo, even after that COVID year, they would still be like trying to compete top 10, especially with the talent they recruit and with the coach that they have. Instead, they're trying to not to be the bottom of the division.
I, for one, am in favor of Texas A&M doing that. If they want to keep paying Jimbo all that money to go 8-5 at best, go for it.
I mean, I'm not arguing against it.
The next one here, a bit of a game that you wouldn't think of in this situation. Notre Dame taking on Syracuse, and Syracuse is the one in the top 20. Notre Dame has been struggling all season. The Irish 4-3, having to go with Drew Pine as their quarterback after an injury earlier this season. Notre Dame, though, only 2.5-point underdogs going on the road to take on a Syracuse team ready to bounce back from that loss to Clemson.
I think this one would be a pretty close game. Probably not as high scoring as Notre Dame has had their offensive issues for a bit, but I know they didn't have much of an issue against UNLV, but they're playing a better team in Syracuse. I think Syracuse will cause certain amounts of problems. Not expecting a high-flying scoring from Syracuse, but I think this will be like a 24-17 game with Syracuse coming out on top.
Yeah, I think this is gonna be a hard battle. I think it's gonna be another defensive game here. I think while Notre Dame's offense will continue to struggle here in this game, when they've put up some points the last few weeks outside the Stanford game, I think Syracuse's defense has been very good this year, holding teams to 15 a game. So I think they're able to contain Notre Dame here, and it's going to be one of those close games. I'll take Syracuse 17-13.
Yeah, to me, this is one of those who has the better defense types of games. It's weird to think Syracuse has a better defense than Notre Dame, but hey, that's the world we live in right now. I think the Orange find a way to get a defensive win. There'll be a few plays here and there. Sean Tucker might make a big run. Maybe Michael Meyer gets a big catch for Notre Dame. There's going to be some plays here and there, but other than that, it'll be pretty much a lockdown type of game that I think Syracuse finds a way to win at home. Illinois takes on Nebraska, and Illinois is 7.5-point favorite in this game. The Illini beat Nebraska last year in that crazy game to start the season in Week 0 in Champaign, but the Illini are 6-1 and are trying to establish themselves as the team in the Big Ten West. Nebraska, of course, they're slowly trying to put it together these last few weeks with Mickey Joseph taking over as the interim head coach. Can Nebraska make some sort of a statement and upset a top 20 Illinois at home?
I mean, if things can go together for them, they can compete with Illinois, but I think Illinois is a more sound team top to bottom, and a more stable, and I think that will be a big thing for Illinois, and I think Illinois goes on to be 7-1.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a close game. I think Nebraska covers, but I think Illinois will pull out a close game. I just think that defense for them is too good. Nebraska relies too heavily on their offense. I think the offense struggles here a little bit against a very tough defense in this game, but I don't trust Illinois' offense highly, so I think that's what's going to keep this game close. But in the end, yeah, they'll go 7-1.
To me, Illinois is built like your classic Brett Bielema team. This is a team built on defense and a strong running game. That's what Illinois wants to have. That's exactly what they do have. The Illini are going to find ways to bleed this clock dry. You're going to see an 8-9 minute drive at some point in the game. This is going to be Big Ten West style football that we've become accustomed to. It's going to be a low-scoring game, whether Nebraska wants it to be or not. Illinois will feel comfortable and right at home despite being on the road. And I think the Illini get a win here and shock a few people that are still not really seeing this Illinois team or just looking at it and going, okay, you beat Iowa 9-6. Wow. You beat Minnesota 26-14 when they're still trying to get back healthy. Wow. You beat a bad Wisconsin team. Wow. Wisconsin only had 2 rushing yards that entire game. People don't look at that because, well, Wisconsin's not that good this year. But this is a stout Illinois defense that's going to give people some problems.
Yep.
Cincinnati takes the trip to Orlando to take on UCF, who this almost was the game day game. They even mentioned it in Corso saying that, hey, UCF can get a win. We're going to host game day in Orlando. And everyone kind of looked at them like, what? What are you talking about, Lee? But it ends up not happening. UCF gets blown out by East Carolina last week. And Cincinnati scraped by getting that win at SMU. Bearcats, number 20 in the country, trying to cement themselves as the front runner in the American. Can they go on the road where they're an underdog and beat UCF at the bounce house?
I think it's going to be a battle. I think they're going to go back and forth. However, while both offenses I think are pretty close and almost a wash, I think UCF's defense is better, and I think that's why UCF's going to take care of business and get the job done in their home field. I think they're able to contain Cincinnati a little bit more. I think it's going to be a close game throughout, but I'm going to take UCF 27-24.
Yeah, for this one, Cincinnati's had their weird troubles through the whole season, having some really close games the last 3 weeks to be exact. Because that Tulsa game, I'm not sure how close that one actually was, but still only a 10-point win. But UCF, their defense is I think a little better than Cincinnati's, and their offenses are about even. But I'm gonna take UCF on this one.
To me, this is kind of one of those bounce-back scenarios. We see it with UCF. You look at their last few games. You beat Temple 70-13. You blow out SMU. You beat up Georgia Tech. Then you have that one loss. You're either winning by a lot or losing by a lot. I think they find a way to swing that pendulum back in their favor. UCF, they get back at home. They have a loud environment for that game, and they pull off the technical upset in terms of rankings, but they're favored to win the game. So it's a double upset game. Someone's getting upset.
Okay, one upset.
Yeah, this is an upset type of game. Vegas upset, ranking upset. We're getting one of them. And then finally, talking about them, South Carolina's back in the top 25 for the first time in a while. They take on Missouri this week. This is just something to see. South Carolina has Missouri and Vanderbilt the next 2 weeks. If South Carolina can then beat Florida, we have to talk about an 8-2 South Carolina team coming down the stretch with Georgia or with Clemson in a few weeks. I believe they've already played Georgia, but it's just a battle-tested team, it feels like, for South Carolina now. They've gone through some of these games. It's been rough at times, but the Gamecocks, I think, a 4-point favorite here. I think they've got a pretty good shot to beat Missouri. I would at least think they would.
Yeah, I think they still need to figure some things out defensively. I think that's where some of the issues are still coming from, keeping some of these games closer. I think the Georgia loss, I mean, obviously you're not going in there expecting to win, but a blowout like that I think woke them up a little bit, was able to go into the film room, fix some things. But no, I think South Carolina's, their offense is full force now. They figured a lot out. I think they win this game, and really I don't think they struggle too much. I think they take care of business here by double digits.
Yeah, and it's like Missouri's just has had a weird, especially those last 4 games they've played. It's been so odd, especially playing close with teams probably should have beaten up or should have beaten. Like somehow they played with Georgia, shouldn't have, and they played with Florida, who's been many iffy, and then the fact they only beat Vanderbilt by 3 is just like, bro. But I think South Carolina will have Missouri and South Carolina probably early on will be battling it out, but South Carolina just pulls away and wins the game pretty easily.
To me, this is one of those that Missouri's going to play it a lot closer than everybody expects. That's just who they are this year. They're a team that always seems to get into one-possession games. But South Carolina at home, with all this energy and momentum behind them, they'll find a way to get the job done. And that will bring us to the NFL as I exit out of some of these games here. One final game I want to mention in college this week, a game that truly you have to be insane to watch, because Northwestern plays Iowa this week at 2:30 on ESPN2. And that over-under is 37.5. When that line first opened, it was 31, which would have made it the lowest over-under in the history of college football. That is the true testament we're dealing with this game. I just wanted to bring it up for that purpose because, my goodness, neither of these teams are good offensively, but two okay-ish. I mean, Northwestern's not the worst defensively, but neither of these teams are that good offensively.
No, it's literally just going to be a battle of who's gonna suck the worst. That's really how it's all.
Listen, if you believe in punting is winning, this is a game for you. That's all I'm going to say.
For this one, I'm thinking because just Iowa's just better defensively. I would say talent-wise, I'd say Iowa takes this one. Still expect it to be really low.
This is just a game where everyone loses. That's all I'm saying. I'm not even asking you to make picks on this one because we all know the loser's everybody.
I think Iowa kind of puts the points here a little bit, to be honest. I don't think Northwestern's defense is that good. And I think Iowa takes advantage of a lot of different mistakes. And, I think, it's not like highest points, but I think Iowa puts up 24 to 28 points in this game and wins like 24-7, something like that.
Well, I'm sure Iowa fans would be thrilled if they could put up 24 points on anybody, Even though they've done it a few times this year, they still can't believe it at times. But that will do it for college football.
No, you talk. No, you don't want to go through the OU Iowa State game?
No, we're not going to talk about OU Iowa State. I'm not going to give myself the headache talking about that game. Listen, we will. If OU does what I think they can, the keyword think is a strong word here. We'll talk about that later. The funny scenario Oklahoma can still do to ruin everyone's season, which would be a good time had by many Sooner fans. But we got to talk about NFL. We got to talk about the Thursday night game. Baltimore going to Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay coming off quite possibly one of the worst games I've ever seen an NFL team play. Just all around, just uncompetitiveness, it felt like at times, which is not something I thought I'd be saying for the Buccaneers against the Panthers. But somehow, some way, Tampa Bay is still a 1-point favorite at home against Baltimore.
I just don't think you can trust Baltimore. As much as you can't trust Tampa Bay, I don't think you can trust Baltimore, especially on the road. I mean, you look at their team; they still have a lot of flaws. They found a way to escape last week with a win, but you look at it where, I mean, they struggle to run the ball. They struggle. Like Lamar Jackson's your leading rusher. Tampa Bay's defense is pretty good. I think they'll be able to slow that down a little bit. Jackson running, but no, and I'm gonna take Tampa Bay. I think Tampa Bay wins a close game. 24-23. I think Tom Brady gets the job done, and Brady won't lose 3. I don't think he loses 3 straight.
I really don't know how to feel about this one because just how poorly Tampa has played their last 2 games against teams they probably should have won against. Actually should have won, but they didn't. But I think I agree. I don't think Brady will lose 3 in a row. I think Tampa will find a way to get the victory.
Something about this game just tells me Baltimore's going to win, and I don't know why. I just have this weird gut feeling that Baltimore's going to find a way to get this thing done. It's just one of those, even though everything I know tells me to trust Tampa Bay at home, that Tom Brady's not going to lose 3 in a row, the Buccaneers are going to find a way to get it done, I just can't trust them. Their defense is good, but I can't trust that offense right now. And I mean, even though Baltimore's not playing amazing either right now, I still think they find a way to get, 17, 20 points on the board at the end of the day, no matter how long that takes. And that seems to be enough to beat the Buccaneers right now.
Well, Buccaneers need to help Brady out, which I know it sounds weird to say, but they need to trust Leonard Fournette more. They need to trust their run game and get that going from the start. And if they're able to do that, I think that's where this win comes from for Tampa Bay, is more on Leonard Fournette's back in the defense.
Yeah, it'll be crazy to see, but I think Baltimore finds a way to get it done. And we have to talk about a 3-5 Tampa Bay and the idea that the Panthers and the Saints are half a game out in the NFC South division race.
Hey, I'm not complaining about a 3-5 Tampa Bay team.
I know you're not.
None of us are.
And then the next one here, London, Denver, Jacksonville, 8:30 in the morning.
They're poor souls.
Do you want to actually wake up and watch this game? It's on ESPN+. Does anyone want to see Russ Cook in London?
Is he playing?
Yeah, he said he did stretches on the plane for 4 hours, so you tell me. But Denver taking on Jacksonville here should be an interesting one. I'm not going to say a good one. This could very well go any way, shape, or form. But both these teams coming off a big loss, each team trying to get their 3rd win of the season and avoid going 2-6. Jags are a 2.5-point favorite, though.
Yeah, this is one of those games where you really don't. I mean, it's a coin flip. I think it's a pick 'em. Both teams going struggling. Somebody, I guess, technically doesn't have to win. You can tie in the NFL, but someone you figure is going to go out, find a way to win. And I'll tell you what, all the London games, and obviously this is just off the top of my head, but they all seem a way to be close. Like I don't really think of any London games being too much of a blowout. Jacksonville's more familiar with it for some reason. They always get I don't know how that contract came out, but they always get a London game. So for that reason, them being more familiar territory with how to handle, the whole London pre-game stuff kind of working its way up throughout the week, I'm going to lean Jacksonville here to get the job done. We still don't know Russell Wilson's whether he's going to play or not. He's questionable. Probably be more of a game time decision here. But you saw the Jaguars trade Robinson to the Jets this week too. I think that's going to create a whole different dynamic there for the run game. And I think Trevor Lawrence and company is able to find a way to get the job done.
Yeah, I think Trevor Lawrence and company are they're just able to actually put a good amount of points on the board, while Denver still struggles with that. Even though it's like Denver still has still a solid defense. I think Lawrence and company will do enough to get by with about a 10-point victory.
Denver's defense is going to find every way possible to keep them in this game, but unfortunately their own worst enemy is the Broncos offense, not the Jags offense. Jacksonville will find a way to get this thing done. It'll be ugly. It'll be close. It might be a 13-10 type of game, but I honestly think Jacksonville at the end of the day gets that win, and we got to talk about the increasing tightness in the AFC South as well.
What does benefit Denver here is how bad that Jacksonville offense is as well. So they could probably create some turnovers and score off one or two of them, which could be the recipe for finding a way to win.
Maybe we could have a 7-turnover type of game.
No, exactly.
Too, and just no one wins. This could be the same type of thing. No one wins. But speaking of no one wins, the Panthers play the Falcons this week in a game that you would think, okay, both teams trying to get into a little bit of a rhythm here. Carolina just got a big win over Tampa Bay. Atlanta just got blown out by Cincinnati. They're trying to bounce back here. This is one of those Falcons are favored 4.5 points. They're at home. Can Atlanta find that rhythm again and get back to 4-4?
Real quick before I give my prediction, if you scroll back up, it's pretty funny. I get they traded Christian McCaffrey, but you think they'd at least fill in the new rusher or the receiver? Even Robbie Anderson, you think they'd fill in? I mean, it has to be DJ Moore, and then Hubbard got hurt, so I don't know if he would be the leading rusher now.
Yeah,
but,
maybe it's Deontay Foreman.
But still,
at this point.
Someone's got to be the leading rusher now. But I just thought that was funny. I think Atlanta gets the job done at home. I think they're able to get back to 4-4. I think Marcus Mariota is able to get the job done, and we'll see where Atlanta's at. But I know I talked about it yesterday with Cordell Patterson. I know they can't wait to get him back. I think here in a few weeks. But I think Mariota and Pitts is able to find a way to get it done.
Yeah, it's going to be a much more even matchup. But that being in Atlanta, I think it still favors the Falcons quite a bit, since they're more on a level playing field. Even though Carolina did come off beating a much better team that they shouldn't have beaten, but I don't think that really matters. At the end of the day, Falcons get the victory.
This is where I'm going to use my one homer pick for the year. Carolina is somehow going to find a way and be 3-0 in division play. I don't know how. P.J. Walker, he's going to come out. He's going to have one of those types of games again. One of those types of games. I just think for some reason I feel, one of those gut feelings, Carolina's going to find a way to come into Atlanta, get into a little bit of a game. That defense is going to lock Mariota down at some point. It's going to hurt not having Cordell Patterson, like you said, Andrew. And I think Carolina finds a way to get the job done here. It'll be a close game, of course, but I think Carolina wins a more low-scoring game.
I don't think you have to use your homer pick there on that. I mean, I think it's a very realistic option. I mean, they're coming off a win against Tampa Bay, a better team, a better quarterback, better running back, better defense. I mean, I don't think it's that crazy to say they're going to win this
I don't
game.
know. It's just because I don't think – at this point, I think everyone's ready to write Carolina off. And, I mean, the Tampa Bay game before that especially, where it's like, okay, they're tanking. This thing's over. You fired your coach. Everything has gone wrong. You've traded your best players. This season's done. This is a done deal. Build towards next year. But I don't know. I've seen this story happen before with teams where it seems like they're ready to just rebuild and get it over with, and then they get on that hot streak and find a way to come back and be better than you would imagine. Yeah. Next one here, the Bears and the Boys. Chicago 3-4, building off that win that they got over New England, and Dallas still trying to get reaccustomated to that Dak Prescott offense that we're used to. Cowboys are a 9.5-point favorite at home, trying to get to 6-2 and continue that battle in the NFC East.
No, the thing is, Bears are coming off a huge victory over the Patriots. I mean, they scored 33 on the Patriots. Who would have thought scoring 33 on a Bill Belichick defense with that offense that's been playing so poorly for the Bears? But I think that I just don't think that magic continues for Chicago. I think with Dak being back, I think Dallas, having a much better, better sound team, I think Dallas will get it done, and Dak has a good day.
Well, this Dallas defense is a lot different than New England's defense. It's a lot better than New England. So, I mean, Chicago's going to have to play a perfect game to win this one. But Listen, I talked about it yesterday with the receiving core there in Dallas. I don't trust their offense. I think they're going to win another close game. I think it's going to be close just because of I think the offense struggles here a little bit. I think defense gets the job done again. I think Cowboys win. I'll say about 27-20, somewhere around there, 27-17, somewhere around there. But, no, again, I think Cowboys' offense struggles a little bit. That they get a lot of help from the defense, send them up in some good spots. But another win for the Cowboys' defense here.
I think so. Dallas's defense is just a bit too overpowering for Chicago. Fields will have a few mistakes here and there, and that Bears offense, it'll look good at times, but, man, it'll look bad at times. I think Dallas, even though they still not 100% yet, they're still trying to get reacclimated with that offense. I don't know if you really can. That defense is going to lock them down at times, and Dallas will find another, okay, we're just going to kind of do nothing for 3 quarters like we saw against Detroit. Kind of just wait for the opponent to beat themselves, basically.
I do, before we move on from the Bears, want to thank Chicago for giving us Robert Quinn.
Yeah.
Great trade.
There
All he
you
gave
go.
up was a 4th-round pick for a guy who had 19 sacks last year. So I do want to thank Chicago, and they're eating 95% of his salary. So
There you go.
thanks, Chicago, for letting us rob you guys.
Yeah, I know. That's every once in a while you get one of those nice friendly trades. They're just doing you a solid.
Highway robbery right there. So
Oh, man.
maybe it was a good trade for Philly.
Yeah, no, I gave up a 4th-round pick, so thanks. Just had to give my thank
You
you.
got a good player. You only gave up a 4th, so it works out.
Yeah, just every once in a while you got to give thanks for what you get. Every once in a while you get one of those trades that gets literally dropped into your lap where it's just, okay, thank you. I'll take that. Oh, what are we giving up? A 4th-round pick? Great.
Right?
Great.
I wonder, I
Take
just
it.
picture like GMs being like surprised, like they hear that's all you want or something like that. Like you got to keep your cool to make sure you sound like, oh, okay, that's all you want.
It's Chicago. Not
Yeah,
surprised.
that's one of those where it's like a 4th-round pick. Dang, okay, you're playing hardball here. meanwhile, in your head, you're just like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? What is this guy doing? But moving on to the next one, speaking of what are you doing, Miami plays Detroit. I don't know what either of these teams are doing. Both these teams continue to just infuriate me at times. They continue to amaze me with how many depths they can go. The Dolphins seemed like they had a runaway game against the Steelers, and the offense switch got turned off somewhere, I think, in the building. Miami only holding on to win by 6. For Detroit, a team with so much promise at the beginning of the season, they have a few one-possession games here and there, but the shootouts turned into blowouts, and the Lions find themselves 3.5-point underdogs at home against Miami.
Well, it doesn't help that Goff is just not really able to do anything his last few games for them. That it's like he goes from like that offense as a whole is able to get points up on the board without much issues, and then all of a sudden the offense just like you said with Miami, the switch got turned off, and their defense is still struggling like normal, but they're not giving up as much points, even though they're still on paper still getting blown out. But this is going to be a weird game because it's like I don't know how Miami's offense will do, because it's like they're inconsistent with the play, and Detroit's just being Detroit. But I'm gonna go odd pick here. I'm gonna pick Detroit to get upset on Miami.
Well, their offense has been inconsistent. I mean, they've been missing Tua for a while now. He had only 1 game back. I think his biggest thing is getting his rhythm and fatigue under him, getting fully healthy, kind of getting back into a full game mentality. We saw him struggle a little bit in the second half. I think he showed some signs of being tired, but this Lions team's bad. Their defense is bad. I think Miami goes on and wins this one fairly easy, like 31-10. I think Tua to Tyreek Hill is going to be too much for him. On the offensive end, I just don't see how the Lions stop Waddle or Tyreek Hill.
That's where I'm at. This Detroit defense it's not even at bad. It's beyond bad at times. When you're giving up 32 a game, that is not a place you ever want to be at, especially in the NFL. I think Miami will be able to, even with Tua not even at 100%, they'll be able to get their big plays here and there whenever they want them. Miami, if this turns into a shootout, that's about the only way I could see Detroit winning this game, because Miami's going to have their points, and I think the Dolphins get the win there.
I'm just picking because NFL's had like the last few weeks have had weird games where teams that shouldn't have lost.
Yeah.
So I'm picking that one as mine.
Weird pick. Every game ends in a tie. There you go. What if we just had a week like that
That'd
where everyone
be
tied?
hilarious.
That'd be the best week in history.
That will never happen.
That'd be
That would never
hilarious.
happen. But imagine, Andrew.
Just
This is
imagine.
what we do with sports.
I would hate it.
I would love
I
it.
would-
I would love it. Make everyone. No one wins for a week.
I don't even care if the Eagles won and everyone else tied. Like, that would bother. Like, I hate ties. So, like, that would just bother me so
Oh, I
much.
hate ties too, but it would be funny because we allow them to exist for some reason.
Well, it's just a way to keep the game from prolonging, and also they give you that 15, basically an extra quarter to do something, and if you can't do anything, you don't get it. I think for regular season, it's not as big of an issue, but playoffs, you can make that case.
No, I want to see an
playoffs,
NFL game go 7
issue.
overtimes.
It's like playoffs. It is an issue because you got to fix that thing. You got to have a winner.
People demand more football. Give us all the overtimes.
Well,
Regular
good
season, just go to college style.
luck, good luck trying to convince the NFL to do that because they want to get every game under at least around 3 hours.
I get that, but you can just cut commercials.
Yeah.
Have you tried cutting commercials,
Have you
CBS
tri-
and
have you-
Fox?
have you
Have
tried?
you
They
tried
want that
making your
money.
product more appealing to the audience? I don't need to see 18 commercials for hearing aids. I'm
Well,
good.
as long as they're not taking notes from them, we'll be there fine.
Yeah. But the Cardinals are taking on the Vikings here. Could be a battle here. Vikings 3.5-point favorites. Cardinals, their offense came back to life. DeAndre Hopkins is back. Can Arizona keep the success up, or will Minnesota stay undefeated at home?
I think it's undefeated at home. I think this is going to be a great battle, though. I think you are going to see a good Arizona team. I don't think it's going to be one of those games you saw from earlier in the year, but I think Vikings defense is just really good, and then Cousins is able to get the job done. And some of the Arizona's health still worries me. Who knows if Connor's going to go yet? We don't know. He's questionable. It'll probably be more of a game time decision around there. So I'm going to say Minnesota pulls out a close game here at home, 23-21.
Yeah, I'd say about similar result. I'd say probably a little more hot, probably like 27-24. Minnesota, I think Minnesota still keeps their undefeated streak at home in Arizona. While they will be more playing better as a team, it won't matter.
I think this will be more of a shootout type of game. I think Arizona finds their rhythm a bit, but Minnesota still gets the job done at home. Kirk Cousins will have himself a great day.
Who would you take? Justin Jefferson, DeAndre Hopkins.
I don't know. I have to think about that.
I mean, it's just a good receiver competition here.
It is a good
Yeah.
receiver competition. I don't know.
I'd say
I would say Jefferson this year because of Hopkins still coming off that injury, but I don't know. If we have this debate with a fully healthy Hopkins, it could be a little bit different
Hopkins
there.
wasn't coming off an injury; he was coming off a PED suspension.
That's as good as an injury to me.
Well, it's both, honestly. He got hurt at the end of last year, and then he got found with the PEDs before he came back. So
That's true, but
PEDs are an injury. You should not harm your body like that to enhance your
Exactly.
performance.
You're one-
Winners never do
1,000
drugs.
Yeah, just ask every MLB player who's not in the Hall of Fame. It's cost them their spot. It hurt their chances.
Yeah.
yeah.
Anyway, Raiders, Saints. It's a
Raiders.
game.
Raiders.
It's a game. They're playing. Saints are 1.5-point underdogs at home. That's about it. Have you both already picked Raiders in this one, or?
Yeah, I just think Jacobs gonna be too much for the Saints defense here. I think it's gonna. I think it's gonna be a high scoring game. I think Saints are gonna try to figure things out. I mean, I don't think either defenses are that strong. Saints defense has been struggling. I think Card Adams is gonna be pretty big here this game. But I think Raiders controlled in the second half with Jacobs, just like they did last week against Houston after a close first half. So I'm gonna take Raiders here.
Yeah, I'm taking Raiders here. It's mainly Dalton. Well, he had in regards to statistics, you take away his interceptions, had a field day on that Arizona defense, but the turnover issue I think might become a factor, and Vegas gets points off of it, which will help them win. And especially like you said, second half, I think they'll take control.
Yeah, I kind of think the same thing will happen here. Raiders will find a way. All they need to do is keep it competitive for that first half, and they'll find a way to win it in the second half. Derek Carr, he does the simple big brain play of handing the ball to Josh Jacobs. It's a winning strategy. You know?
We have a running back like that.
The Patriots playing the Jets. The Jets are 5-2, and are flying high after that win over Denver 16-9. The Patriots are still trying to figure out who their quarterback is after Mac Jones gets benched for Bailey Zappi in that 33-14 loss to Chicago. Jets are still not favored in this game, though, as they try to get to 6-2 on the season.
Yeah, Vegas is going to be Vegas on that one, but I'm picking the Jets because I think they're more sound, and I think they'll get one over on New England.
This is tough. You lose Hall, who's been your key offensive player here so far this season. I think that's going to be a huge loss for him, obviously. You go out right away. You waste no time. You bring in a guy like Robinson, but how well is he going to know the playbook here on this type of week? So that's got to be a concern. Here's the thing, though. The Jets' defense is for real. They're going to be able to stop. Patriots have problems all over on quarterback. They keep going back and forth between Jones and Zappi. So they don't know what they're doing. It's going to continue to struggle. And listen, Robinson's no joke. I mean, we saw him have breakout games with Jacksonville, but they've had the running back competition out there. So this gives him a chance to kind of regain that starting spot. And I think Jets are going to be able to go out and get the win here at home. I'll say I think the defense is able to shut down the Patriots. I think the defense is where the Jets win this game.
Oh, I forgot you did. I was about to Connor, Hawk. What are you doing? But we have a format established.
I just made a quick pick on the Jets.
Yeah, I couldn't remember. My brain went to. I was looking at this trying to see if we had anything else going on.
Sorry, I didn't talk more than 15 seconds.
It's okay. But anyway, Patriots Jets. I think the Jets will find a way to get this job done. The Patriots to me are just too inconsistent on offense. When you go up against any form of a good defense, that you're going to struggle even more. Jets are, even though the Breece Hall injury is going to hurt, of course it will. Any running back injury hurts like that. I think Robinson will come in and do just good enough to help that running game out, get the passing game going. Zach Wilson goes off. Jets get a win. And we talk about the Jets and the Bills being the two best teams in the division.
I mean,
it's been forever.
I mean, it seems like through at least within the last how many years, who would have thought now the Jets would actually be one of the better teams in the division and in the AFC?
What a time to be alive for New York sports fans, except for, the postseason part. Yeah. But, they got to figure that one out, They figured out the throwing money at everything works. They just can't figure out how to win when it actually matters. I'll keep it, though. I like that.
Well, when they lose Judge, it's going to get worse for them.
So, yeah, Aaron Judge is my favorite San Francisco Giant.
Yeah.
He's my favorite player. But the Steelers taking on the Eagles, the Battle of Pennsylvania going on. Eagles are 11-point favorites in this one, but can the Steelers make it competitive? Because I honestly don't know if they can even do that. With how their season has been going, what in the world do the Steelers do in this game?
I think they struggle. I mean, Eagles coming off a bye week, they get even healthier, more healthy than they were. Before this Eagles team's been very good. We already mentioned they made a big trade here today to shore up the defense more than it already was. Defense that holds teams to the third lowest points total in the NFL currently. I think the Eagles win this game and cover. I think it's gonna be a tough day for Pickett out there, and the Eagles do their thing. The Eagles do their thing. They jump out big, and they might let them back in the game in the second half like they've been doing to teams. But I think the Eagles control that first half, and it's enough to get the job done.
Yeah, I think Eagles just jump on Steelers really early. That defense is going to pretty much keep Pickett in check, or even if they bring in another quarterback for Pittsburgh, for like Trubisky, they're still going to keep him hammered down. I think Philly still remains undefeated.
I think so, too. Philadelphia, they don't even have to really do much in this game. If they just do their job, Pittsburgh is just struggling at all sorts of levels right now. Eagles are going to be able to take this one. Jalen Hurts is just going to kind of sit and run. That's all you got to do. Don't even have to throw that much. Just run the ball.
Just stay healthy.
Run the ball, play good defense. That's how you go 7-0. That's my keys to the game.
Good keys.
There you go. We can just do that for every Eagles game now. Just run the ball, stay healthy. That's all you got to do. Play good defense.
What time was that game?
That was at noon.
Okay.
That game is. So there you go. Big noon strikes again. Everyone's favorite time slot. But the Titans taking on the Texans. Titans 2-point favorites in this one. Can the Texans find a way to win a game? Because it's been a while.
No, I don't think they can. I think this Tennessee team is good. Obviously, it's still a question. Tannehill got hurt last game, came back late in the game, and he's questionable for Sunday. I think he'll end up playing, and I like Tennessee to take control of this game, and Houston continues to struggle. I mean, they're offense. They got nothing on offense, and I mean, against Tennessee's defense isn't even bad, so it's only going to struggle even more on Sunday. So I'll take Tennessee here by double digits.
Yeah, I'm going to take Tennessee by double digits. Henry and Tannehill have a solid day, or whoever. Even if they don't have Tannehill, they'll just give the ball to Henry, and I don't think it will be much of an issue. Houston will go 1-5-1.
I think even if Malik Willis plays, that just changes it into a different type of thing. With Willis, with his dual threat ability, that's going to be a different problem if he does play. If he doesn't, Tennessee can just kind of sit back, make it easier for Tannehill, throw some more simple stuff in there. I think they can still find a way to beat the Texans. That's just where the Texans are right now. Next one here, the Commanders and the Colts in the Carson Wentz Bowl going on here. Colts are a 3-point favorite despite the beginning of Sam Ehlinger's start here. His first career start, I believe. I want to say it's his first start. I don't know if, at least for this year, I know it is.
This year it is.
I think it is.
He started a couple games last year because
Did he?
Wentz was hurt.
I think Wentz played the whole year because he had the whole snap count, and the Eagles got the pick because he had to play a certain amount of snaps. And then he lost to Jacksonville at the end of the year.
I can't remember if he did, because I know they had Jacob Eason as well.
Wentz did get hurt. He did get hurt.
Anyway, I don't remember. First start, at least for Ehlinger this year. We'll go with that. Can the Colts still beat the Commanders with everything that has gone on with Indy right now? Because, my goodness, they're in a they're not in a good situation. The Commanders are in a slightly better situation. They've beaten Chicago and Green Bay back-to-back weeks. And they've got Taylor Heineke back playing well. Somewhat well.
And Heineke's starting, right?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay. So, if you have to think for this one, I don't know how Ehlinger will do much to change the Indianapolis Colts' woes. I don't necessarily think it will probably won't do as much. I'm going to say Commanders actually win this game.
Yeah, I think they find a way to get it done. I think the Commanders will just walk in, and for the first time in a while, they're going to see a dumpster fire bigger than what we're used to in Washington. This is going to be a Commanders win. Heineke's going to play well. Good old Scary Terry will strike again. I see the Commanders getting it done here, and we see the Colts fall to 3-4-1.
So first, this is Sam Ehlinger's first career start. Wentz played all 17 games.
Okay.
Ehlinger played 3 games last year. All came off the bench. But no, I'm gonna go opposite. I think the Colts are good enough where they can give Ehlinger a good game plan. Taylor's back. I think he'll be able to control the clock and at home. I'm gonna take Colts in a close game.
It'll be fun to see. I'm excited to see how Ehlinger plays because I know we talked about it yesterday. Where if anyone can take a beating, it's Ehlinger. If you want someone who is in there and could just take hit after hit after hit and just keep executing, he's your guy.
I do want to know how this got the late game Fox. How's this the first?
Clearly, this is the most important
Right.
game. This is the true game of the week. This is what everyone wants to see. Is that right, Andrew? You want to see Sam Ehlinger's first game. But the actual game of the week that everyone's probably going to get, unless you live in Indiana or the D.C. area, San Francisco taking on the Rams. Can the Niners find a way? Because this NFC West is that same kind of weird situation going on. Niners are trying to get back to their winning ways after losing to Atlanta and Kansas City. The Rams haven't looked that great either. Both teams still really trying to find their footing, even though we're almost halfway through the season already.
Yeah, both teams struggling big time. I like the Rams here at home. I can't trust the 49ers. I'm going to give Matt Stafford the benefit of the doubt here. Cooper Kupp, they got the better weapons on that side. Give me the Rams.
Yeah, since in Los Angeles, I'm taking the Rams. 49ers have too many woes with Garoppolo under center.
Yeah, I think the Rams find a way to get it done. Even though I don't like either of these teams, I trust the Rams slightly more at home. Even though they're 1.5-point underdogs, I still like the Rams to get the job done. Next one here, the Giants and the Seahawks. Giants they got a possibility to go 7-1 here. They go to Seattle, though. Geno Smith, he has been that guy for the Seahawks. The first in the NFC West Seahawks, keep in mind. And Vegas seems to like him. Seattle, a 3-point favorite in this game over the Giants.
I think for this one, I know Geno Smith's been balling out pretty good for Seattle, and Seattle's been offensively has found stability, and their defense is doing pretty good. The Giants, on the other hand, their defense is legit, and they've been playing very well for the most part. And Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley have been able to score both in sync, especially as long as Saquon stays healthy. Giants probably have a good shot to win this game. I'm going to take the Giants to go to move on, to advance on.
It's gonna be a tough spot for them to go on the road here. Go to Seattle. You're coming off a nice solid win last week. Still coming off 2 weeks ago now. You had that comeback win against Green Bay. I don't know. With that being said, though, I don't know. Seattle at home is tough to beat. They got to do the whole time change thing, and there's always stats on that. I go back and forth with this one when I'm trying to pick it. I'm going to lean Giants. I can't go away from that defense here. I think that defense is just too good right now. So until a team proves to me that they can get out there and score big on them, especially with the guy like Geno Smith and company, I'm going to take Giants in a very close game.
That's where I'm leaning on this one. As much fun as I think Seattle's been, they've been a fun story this year. I don't see them being able to score a whole lot on this Giants defense, and I can see the Giants doing vice versa. Seattle's not an amazing defensive team by any means. Saquon Barkley's going to have some fun in this one, I think. Daniel Jones is going to make all the throws he needs to make. This is going to be one where the Giants come away with it. It'll be a battle. Not saying it'll be a blowout by any means, but I think the Giants at the end of the day get the win. And we have a 7-1 Giants. Boy, if that happens, we got a 7-1 Giants and a 6-2 Jets. We really have all the New York teams going off so far this year. That kind of worries me, though, because I don't want the Knicks to be good. I don't want the Knicks to be good. I do not want this New York success to keep going, except for the Islanders. They can be good. I don't have a problem with them. They're the only New York team I don't have literally any problems with, so good for them.
It's like I also like the Islanders, but they're also division rival. So, yeah, I don't really – as long as they don't play my Caps.
Go Isles. Best New York team by far, unless you want to count the Devils to make everyone mad.
I think this next New York team is the one that would have something to say about that.
Yeah.
Does that count? They're in New York?
Yeah. Well, yeah, they are.
New York City.
Okay,
New York City.
I'm just messing with you.
Yeah.
But this is the team we all do like that's out of the New York
Yeah,
State.
so the Bills are the true they're the real America's team because what other fan base wants to suplex tables for no reason? No one does it better than Bills Mafia. They're at home. They're playing the Packers. Packers are 11.5-point underdogs. This has been the Bills' buzzsaw team. And I think that, man, if that place gets rocking like this and if the Packers get in trouble, oh, boy, get ready for what's going to happen there.
Well, since Aaron still doesn't have anyone to throw to.
What are you talking about? He can throw it to the ground. That's his best receiver.
He probably can just throw it to the Bills. That'd be more funny. But Buffalo, I think, just wallops Green Bay. Green Bay just will not have any answers for them. So I think Buffalo covers and pretty much whoops Green Bay.
I think Buffalo wins a closer game than everyone expects. I think Packers' defense is undervalued. I think they find a way to keep them in this game somewhat for the most part throughout. I think Rodgers can do enough to keep it a close game. But in the end, yeah, I will definitely take Buffalo, but I'm going to say 27-20.
I think, to your point, Andrew, this is going to be a closer game than people think. Green Bay's defense is going to hold Buffalo off a few drives, and everyone's going to look and go, okay, we've got ourselves a game here. But as that second and third quarter go on, Green Bay's defense is going to get tired of their offense going 3 and out on and off the field in a minute or two. It's going to start to wear down. Buffalo's going to have some big explosive plays late. And we're going to see a real party up there in upstate New York.
If it's Eagles-Bills for the Super Bowl, should we just cancel the game and let the fan bases battle it out?
Well, we should honestly have the fans just play that game.
That's what I'm saying.
If we just have two, 150 groups, two groups, 150 people each, let them play it at the Super Bowl site, and let the players just be coaches or something.
Let the fans battle out Saturday night, and then have the real Super Bowl Sunday night.
Yeah.
It's like we're gonna see ECW come back.
Yeah, we might have a situation where several people are put in jail just for happiness, which
Flaming tables,
something. We might see tables just randomly thrown. Just at some point, someone will start saying something. A lot of drunk people, a lot of happy drunk people, a lot of angry drunk people. Poles may or may not be climbed and destroyed. A lot of things are going to happen. It'll be a weird time if those two do play each other. But I think the Bills find a way to get it done. I think we all agree on that. The final game to talk about, Monday night, Halloween game. And we got a battle of oranges on Halloween. We got the pumpkin battle today. The Battle of Ohio. Bengals, Browns, Cincinnati, 3-point favorites over Cleveland.
Cincinnati seems to have figured it out. I'm going to take Cincinnati to continue to roll, get their third straight win, as things seem to continue to be on the upside for them, while everything in Cleveland still seems to be shaky, and no one knows what's going on. So give me Cincinnati.
Yeah, I'm pretty much in the same boat. Cincinnati's pretty much got it together. Burrow is going to have another great day. I think that run game for Cincy continues to get better, and Cleveland will have no answers for it.
Cleveland will play this game closer than everyone expects, but when it comes to the second half, Cincinnati will establish that they're the better team. And Jacoby Brissett will throw a pick in the fourth quarter because that's what he does.
Pick six, baby.
That is what he does. So that is every game in the NFL. We still have one more game to get to because on Friday, a little certain thing called the Fall Classic starts. Philadelphia taking on Houston. And Aaron Nola already announced he will be on the mound game one for the Phillies. Houston going with fan favorite undecided because they love to throw people off. And also because I guess we can't actually have a prediction on pitchers because we know who's probably going to start, but it's a lot funnier to say it's undecided.
Yeah.
Let me have my one joke, Andrew.
Well, no. I'm just saying, at the end there.
But anyway, the Astros are 1.5-run favorites in this one. This is going to be a lot of fun. Philadelphia, the underdog team that not a lot of people expected to be here. Houston's the team you absolutely expected to be here, unless maybe you were a Yankees fan who chanted, "We want Houston." You got Houston. It didn't end out well for you.
Because they did the same thing. We want Boston, and they got blown out.
Yankees fans should start wanting nothing because they're going to get blown out every time they ask for it.
I mean, I don't defend New York too often, but to be fair, every fan base does that.
I know.
We
want Bamas
we
and
want
all
Bama,
that stuff.
and whenever a team has a big upset in college basketball, you start chanting, "We want whoever the number one ranked team is at the time." It's just what fan bases.
Yeah.
I mean,
they should say we want victories. That's what they should say.
I'll admit it. We want a Houston chance in Philly after that win. So it's just the way it goes. But
anyway,
I'll let you guys go first.
Okay.
Oh, you'll let us go first because you're gonna save it up here.
Alrighty.
Well,
Philly fan.
Okay. Well, what do we do now? Connor, which one of us wants to go first?
I know, right? I'll go ahead and go first. This one's going to be probably might be a solid pitching duel for at least the first few innings. Each can go back and forth. I think Philly will strike first as their hitting core has been pretty solid. I think Houston will eventually try to get those runs back to tie it. But I think at the end of the day, I think Philly and company will get it done. Get a few runs late probably around the 8th inning and hold off Houston to get game one.
To me, this is an interesting one because both teams, neither of them struggled in their championship series in their respective leagues. Both teams showed that they have a lot of strengths. They have very few weaknesses at this point, or if they have any, they've hid them, I would say, for the most part. This is one of the harder ones to predict because there's this team is clearly more rested, and we have that rest versus rust argument we usually have at some point. Both teams are pretty similar in terms of that factor, I would say. But it's going to come down, and Andrew, we talked about this yesterday, that home field disadvantage they like to talk about. I'm not going to say the Phillies go ahead and win game one. I think Houston They'll have the fans behind them. They'll have that momentum behind them. It'll help them this game. But I'm going to go ahead if we want to add Saturday onto this list as well. I think we're going to be looking at 1-1 at the end of Saturday night.
Well, okay. I think there's so many things that go into this, and I don't know. I'm a huge sports nerd. Like I've been studying this, and I always study all this stuff. But it's funny. Houston is 1-7 in the last 8 in the World Series at home. I thought that's an interesting stat from Atlanta and Washington. Those series. Justin Verlander, in 7 career World Series starts, who is the expected Game 1 starter, is 0-6 with a 5.46 ERA. He's given up 24 runs, 34 hits, and 35 innings. So, I mean, he's a guy that struggles, and he's got a 6 ERA this postseason. He's a guy that struggles in the postseason. I think the Phillies have to take that to their advantage in Game 1. I think you need to find a way to get the Game 1 here. And I don't know, one thing I loved when I was looking at this Houston roster as a Phillies fan is they don't have one left-handed reliever on the road. And that's been a lot of teams' way of trying to slow down this Phillies offense is bringing a lefty for Kyle Schwarber and then have a lefty face Harper. And Houston's not able to do that. 2 of your biggest power bats will have an advantage in that sense. But no, I think I do agree with you, Cade. I think it's going to be 1-1 going back to Philadelphia. And then, as we talked about, the recipe there is now you got 3 straight at home. And again, that's why I said it yesterday. I think Philly or whatever team has those 3 straight, in a way, has more of an advantage, to be honest, to get those 3 straight at home and have a chance to go up 3-2. And I think that's what it's going to be here is it goes 1-1 going back to Philly. I will say this. The sleeper for the Phillies is Nick Castellanos. Obviously, we all know what Schwarber can do, Harper can do, but if you're Dusty Baker, first off, you've already managed Harper for a long time when he was with Washington. Both of them were with Washington. You don't want to let Harper beat you. You're going to pitch around Harper. He's going to get the Barry Bonds treatment almost in this. So what it's going to come down to is when Harper gets walked and gets pitches out of the zone, they're saying, okay, we want to get beat by Nick Castellanos. And he's a guy that's had an up-and-down season. He's the sleeper here for the Phillies. And for the Astros, I think their guy is going to be Kyle Tucker. He's kind of in that same spot. Different Astros have been up and down. Alvarez has been the big guy. Phillies will probably do the same treatment. We need someone else to beat us, and then it's going to come down to Kyle Tucker, I think, versus Castellanos as the 2 kind of non-traditional guys. I mean, obviously, I can sit up here and pick Altuve and all them, and I can pick Harper. But, I mean, from those outside those guys' standpoints, those are the 2 keys, I think, to both teams here. And, no, I think the Phillies have the advantage. Astros 7-9 hitters struggle. So that's where the Phillies got to take advantage of it is I think the Phillies win 7-9 in the lineup, which could be a difference.
Yeah, that's where I was saying top to bottom. Phillies had a better batting lineup, especially how all of them have been able to hit so far this postseason. And I think pitching-wise, they're pretty even for the most part, though I would say Houston on paper has the better pitchers, just on paper, but throughout this postseason, both of them have been pretty even. So I'd say I'd still favor Philly, and I agree it will go 1-1, though I believe Philly will take 1 and then lose, I think. Like
okay, I have one serious question, though, for you, Andrew. If Castellanos goes off, who are we sacrificing? Because clearly when he goes off, something bad happens. So who are the Phillies willing to sacrifice for this World Series?
Ukraine. Because
there are a lot of famous people that very well could be in peril if he goes off, because it might become a 4-1 ball game, and that man may never be in the booth ever again.
Well, the Sixers started 0-3. Does that count?
You can sacrifice Joel Embiid in the Sixers.
No, not Joel Embiid. Just
you're going to say we got to sacrifice a specific person.
Just the first part of the Sixers season.
Oh, man. But it's going to be a lot of fun. I think, like I said, this will be a 1-1 series. I think Houston will find a way because think about it, though. That's how baseball works. You have all these stats that go one way, and then the complete opposite happens. How many times do we see that, especially in baseball?
Well, I don't know. I mean, do we want to – I'm going to give my series. I think Philly's taking in 6. Obviously, we'll keep going, breaking down every game as we get closer and through them. But I'll do that. I think the big game here, and if it is 1-1, the one that really, truly worries me because, I mean, as you mentioned, Connor, both pitching staffs are pretty even. I mean, Nola, Wheeler at the top. Flamer, Valdez, and Verlander at the top are pretty good. What's going to come down to is where the Phillies are at going into Game 4. Because the Astros have a true 4-starter in Lance McCullers, while the Phillies continue to go bullpen because Noah Syndergaard, Bailey Falter, and Kyle Gibson have been up and down. So that's the one I think the Astros have a true high-tier advantage. So you want to try to avoid – I mean, obviously, anytime you want to avoid being down 2-1, but Phillies especially here, you want to try to avoid being down 2-1 just because you're already at a high disadvantage going into Game 4, I think.
It'll be fun to see. It absolutely will be. We always get to this time of the year, and it's always a fun time. Of course, Game 1, Friday night on Fox at 7:03. I always love that start.
Can you be any more specific?
Yeah, 7:03, 15 seconds.
33 seconds.
Yeah, precisely. It's also going to be weird with no Joe Buck there. We got Mr. Davis on the call for this one. So that's going to be interesting.
I love Joe Davis. I think they got the better Joe here, to be honest.
You think so?
Yeah, I think I'm going to go ahead and do my series. I think Phillies take it in 6.
I'll say Phillies in 7 just because it's a lot more funny that way. I don't know. I was thinking about this last night, honestly. I thought about the similarities between the Phillies this year and the Cardinals 2011 because I want to compare the two.
There's a lot.
You have, the team sneaks in. At the last possible minute, they get in, have the big series. Obviously, the Cardinals and Phillies played each other in the wild card. Phillies get the win there and just go on to shock everybody. And now here they are playing a Texas team that was here last year, that everyone expects to be here and are favorites to win the whole thing. So what are you going to do about it?
Well, how about this?
Also, where's David Freese? Go find David Freese. Where's he up to? Bring him in Game 6, honorary player. Pittsburgh Pirates legend David Freese. You need to bring him in.
But no, that Phillies beat the Braves in 2011.
Yep.
Let the Cardinals in, and they faced off, and the Cardinals obviously knocked out the Phillies. The Phillies got in because they beat the Astros, and now they get to face each other. So that's another similarity is you get a chance to knock out the team that lets you into the playoffs.
Yeah, it's one of those fun types of things. And, I mean, that's the other thing about sports. There's so many weird similarities you can draw there that also make this fun. But do we have any other final words, not just about this, but the entire weekend of sports we have coming up here?
I'm trying to think of anything else crazy. Go Union, Philadelphia Union, MLS Eastern Conference Finals on Sunday. I'll take the Union in that.
Oh, man. Well, if we don't have anything else, as always, we appreciate y'all tuning in. For Andrew Santangelo and Connor Gray, I am Cade Kennedy. If you enjoyed what you heard tonight, if you watched us live on Twitch, feel free to follow us on twitch.tv/NWTV7. If you want to know when we go live, you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at NWTV7 at all 3 of those places as well. If you're watching on YouTube, feel free to subscribe, like the video here on the Guys Who Stared Stats channel. Always a good time here getting these videos uploaded, our podcasts, other content we do as well, which you'll start to see more and more as we get towards that real mesh of the season here. Baseball ends, basketball and hockey ramp up, and football gets into the second half. Always a fun time. If you have anything you agree with us, disagree with us, feel free to leave a comment down below. We always love interacting with you guys, seeing what all happens there. But until next time, have a good one, everybody.